Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Darren Morris and today I have a special guest, my mom. Alright, so a lot of you have been requesting her side of the story, and thanks to all your questions, we finally get to do a little interview. So, let's get started. Alright, so some of the CF moms were starting to say, to start from the beginning. When Dara was born, how did you feel whenever she was diagnosed with CF?
Well, start from the beginning. When Dara was born, I guess it was about 2 months after she was born, we started having problems with her swelling and not being able to eat. And of course, you all that know about CF, the diaper changes. I guess she was about 2 months old, and I brought her into the hospital one morning. I couldn't wake her up. And we had been back and forth to doctors because I knew that something was wrong with her, but no one would listen. And because I was the first time mom, they just kept telling me, you're not doing something right. And they even sent us to a cancer institute and tried to tell me she had cancer. And when all that blood work came back, she was fine. Well, they sent us home, and I guess it was about a couple days later, it was Mother's Day. And we were at church, and this was probably about a couple of days before Dara's diagnosed. We were at church, and a young lady, I think she was about 11, got up on stage at church and was there was a letter to her mother telling how, her mom takes care of her, that she has cystic fibrosis, and went into detail about everything. And I was like, wow. A couple of days later, I couldn't wake Dara up, and she was barely breathing. And so we rushed her to the emergency room. When we got to the emergency room, they did a cut down in her leg because her veins were so small they couldn't get it in her arm. So they did it in her leg. Well, when they shot the antibiotics into her leg, the IV was not placed in there right, and so it burnt her entire leg. It started up from her ankle all the way up past her knee, and it started turning purple and bubbling over. And I was screaming at the doctor to, do something. Of course, at that time they threw me out of the room. So next thing I know, the crash carts and stuff were coming into her room, and they pulled me out, and she had actually died a couple of times, and they brought her back. Well, what had happened is the leg got infected from the antibiotics, and it got gangrene in it, and she went into septicemia. And they had to life flight her from the Beaumont Hospital over to Houston, Texas Children's Hospital. When we got over there, of course, I had to drive, so they told me that my daughter probably wouldn't be alive when we got there. So we got over there, and I had to wait in a waiting room for probably about 12 hours before they would even tell me anything. And the doctor comes out and tells me I have a very sick child. Well, I've been trying to tell them that for a long time. They had to go in and take care of her leg, probably about 20 surgeries at 2 months old, and skin grafts off her back and her butt to fix her leg. And they actually let me hold her a couple of times because she was on life support, and they didn't think that she was going to make it. So I guess it's about 6 weeks on life support. We finally got a little bit better, and we were able to move into our own room. And I was like, okay, we've got to do some testing because before this, something was wrong. Something caused this. So the doctors ran all kinds of tests, and I guess about 4 or 5 days later, they come back and they were like, we're going to run a sweat test for cystic fibrosis. I was like, okay. So they went off and tested her, and then the same young lady from the church that stood up on stage that day happened to come in there and to see us because she was having a clinical visit. And she sat in the waiting room with her mom, and they both sat there and told me the entire story of what cystic fibrosis is and how they treat it and what they do. And it was just really great. I was like, wow, she has it rough. It's just amazing. I felt God had sent them there because my daughter was about to be diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. Anyway, so they went on, about their way, and the doctors called me back in and sat me down, and they said, okay, we have a diagnosis. Her sweat test came back positive, and she's got cystic fibrosis. And they said, we will send a counselor in here to tell you what this is. And I was just told what it was just an hour before they were diagnosed. So I did a lot of praying and just felt peace that we were going to be all right. We went home, I guess about 2 weeks after that, with a tube in her nose, down her nose into her throat, so we could feed her, because at such a young age she didn't know how to drink a bottle because she was down for so long.
So the next question is, how did you care for Dara at a young age?
Well, this was before they had the vest that vibrates, and so we did breathing treatments and tobramycin 4 times a day, and that's back when I had to do the chest percussions on her chest. So she was just a little bitty baby, and I would sit her on my lap with her head face down, watching Barney, and I would do the chest PT for 25 minutes on the chest, 25 minutes on her side, 25 minutes on her back, and 25 minutes on the other side.
I remember it hurting us sometimes.
Yeah. I remember my hands hurting. And so we did that all the way up until she was 8 years old. And at 8 years old, they had come out with the therapy vest that you put on, has air hose, and vibrates for her while she does her treatments. And that was a lifesaver. As far as her meds and everything, she had to take, the enzymes to digest her food. We didn't go anywhere or do anything. I was scared to take her anywhere because, they had told me that my child wasn't going to live to be 20, and that's the most they lived, and that if she gets a cold or sick, that we would be in the hospital for weeks at a time. So I was probably overcautious, scared mother. I had nobody else to talk to about it and didn't know anyone else that had CF besides the lady at our church.
All right, so the next question was Dara, because of her condition, was there limits or certain things that she couldn't do that normal kids would have a privilege of?
Well, I tried not to make her feel that she was any different because of the cystic fibrosis, other than, not wanting to take her out, especially in the wintertime around sick people. She played soccer, and we had a swimming pool, so that kept her really healthy. I tried not to make her feel that her disease was enabling in any way, but as a mother, of course, inside I was scared to death.
All right, so the next question was, how was Dara, as you saw her, mentally, or was she physically different? Was she had any issues growing up, school, maybe a job later on?
When Dara was younger, I homeschooled her up until the 3rd grade, and I put her in a private school that went 3 days a week. And as far as mentally, she was a child that just loved life. I mean, smiling all the time, yes ma'am, no ma'am, and she was just great. You couldn't tell anything was wrong with her. Depression, anxiety, I don't think hit until probably high school.
Mm-hmm.
High school, whenever, she used to not ever cover up the scar on her leg because the scar is pretty big. She started feeling awkward because of that, and then because of, not getting to go to like sleepovers and stuff, because she had to bring all of her vests and everything, and I think that was a really big deal. What do you think?
Yeah. I didn't really start feeling really concerned until later on, like 6th grade, whenever I actually got bullied from my leg. But the cystic fibrosis, I didn't start till high school.
Yeah.
Whenever you actually got to go somewhere, or say I got sick, or constant cancellations with friends because I got sick unannounced, or skipping plans. I just felt bad.
Yeah.
All right. The next question is sent by one of our friends. They said, have you ever had to deal with fighting to keep her healthy or refusing to take her meds?
Oh, yeah. It was real easy when she was younger. I think it got up to high school age, and trying to transfer over the care to her where it wasn't always on me was very difficult. I will say that Dara was never hospitalized because of cystic fibrosis until she was 18 years old. I never missed a treatment. I never missed medications. I did everything. I based my life around taking care of her. About high school, she started, in and out, getting kind of sick, and I couldn't exactly understand why she was losing weight. Well, I went to clean the living room one time and found all of her pills dumped behind the couch that she was supposed to have been taking. So it started out a battle with that. And all I could say is, do you want to die? If you do not take these medications, you are going to die. Your high school age, I'm working. I can't treat you like you were when you were, 10. And it would just crush my heart. I just didn't know what to do. I would ask the doctors, and for all you moms that are wondering this, I know there was questions. It's part of it. It's what's going to happen. I had to learn that I can't be there 24/7. She's going to have to take responsibility. And I think that at a younger age, I probably should have let her have some of that responsibility and thinking, instead of me thinking that I can control this, if I do everything I'm supposed to do, she's going to be well. I think at a younger age, I probably should have let her take responsibility and start doing things herself instead of me having everything planned out and laid out and timed and everything. So when it came up to high school age, I think she still wanted me to do that.
Well, I'll add on to this because what you said is relevant. Transitioning from child to adult, because you laid it out for so long, once I hit the adult doctor was like, took you out of the room and only did me.
Right, they wouldn't let me in the room.
I didn't have any idea. Like, my knowledge was not up to date, I would say, because I was so dependent on mom laying my pills out, getting everything ready. Even when I went to work, sometimes she would make my breakfast, lay my pills out, and stuff like that. So my mind didn't think, oh, my CF. I think, oh, I got a life. I gotta go. So with that, for anyone who's transferring or maybe trying to teach their children that CF is your life. You can do things around it, but you can't do anything if you can't take care of yourself.
You have to take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, you end up in the hospital.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the next question was, how did you handle work and a life around Dara growing up?
When Dara was younger, I didn't work until I think you were about 10. I stayed home with you because I was told that I couldn't leave you in daycare and I couldn't do anything, so I just basically worked from home. I'm a cosmetologist, so I guess when you were about 10, I went ahead and opened up a shop and I attached it to my house, so I was always there with her. She did go to school 3 days a week for about 4 or 5 hours, and then the rest of the time she did her homework at home, so it made it really easy to keep up with everything. As far as that, I just worked around her. She was, her health was really important.
So the next question that was sent in was, how does Dara going in and out of the hospitals affect you?
Like I said, her first time to be hospitalized was 18. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
18. I'm very thankful that I didn't have to do all this when she was little because it just broke my heart already to have to go through what we had to go through. In and out of the hospital now, it's really difficult because, I have to work and have to do things too. There's times that she has to, stay in the hospital by herself. But at least she's an adult now and not a child. It's difficult. Me and her sister, to kind of take turns, and now, of course, she's engaged, and he kind of taken part of my responsibility. It's hard. It's very hard.
You want to add into anything like mentally when I first got in versus now?
The first time you were in the hospital, it was pretty devastating because, of course, I'm thinking, because I've always done everything by the book, and now that she's taking care of herself, that if I would have just done something, I could have prevented this. And this is a whole nother story that I had to learn that I had to give everything to God, because I am not in control of this. She is not in control of this. All we can do is our best. Then versus now, it's really no different, because every time she goes in, as a mom, I'm scared to death that she's not going to come back out.
Now in the hospital, Do you get to see me all the time, or is it like set schedules depending on the hospital?
No, it's pretty much you're in almost like a little suite, and you can have someone stay with you 24/7. Even little Eli, her little dog, gets to stay. So it's pretty laid back. She's just in there. They do all of her breathing treatments and all the IV antibiotics. And last year we've had a really rough year where Dara got really sick and was coughing up blood, and that had to take part of her lung out because of the fungus. And all this year she's been hospitalized quite a few times now, and still, like, we're still not over this. They can't seem to you know fix what's happening.
And if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it in the description below. It's the one right before this.
Yeah, and then all the times, the only thing is, I wish I could. It's hard because the doctors do not listen, and a lot of times I feel like if I'm not there, they do stuff and make so many careless mistakes that there was what was it, last time we had surgery? If I wasn't there, you probably would have died because the stupid mistakes that they make. That's a whole nother story.
And if you want me to tell that story about the mishaps of surgery,
Or the hospital, period,
or anything in the hospital, just comment, like this video, give me a heads up of what you want to see, and I can definitely do a video on that. Alright, so the next question was, now that Dara has CF, she also developed diabetes. How old was she? And
Dara was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis related diabetes when she was 8. So it was almost like, oh my gosh, add something else to this. So coming from a person who is scared to death of needles, that was quite a learning thing there. We had to learn how to give insulin, learn how to monitor all of her food, which of course it's not like normal diabetes, because with cystic fibrosis she has to have 500 to 600, 700,000 calories a day. And so when you're diabetic, they want you to start carb counting, but it's not like that here. You still have to eat all that food and then correct everything, so you're getting tons of insulin,
which can shoot my pancreas and liver.
Yeah.
Which I have to be tested for every time I go in because of it.
And it's a constant battle because, sometimes the pancreas works, sometimes it doesn't.
And with that, I can add is some of the times when I'm being admitted isn't not necessarily CF cause. I mean, yes, I get exacerbations and that's why I'm in, but one of the main causes is because of the lack of control my blood sugar is, that if it's constantly high is like a home for bacteria to grow in my lungs. So diabetes definitely plays a big part in me getting sick.
And that's a whole other thing with doctors not listening to us. When she was, a little younger, they put a pump in. And then when she went from being in the child, what do you call that? Pediatric endocrinologist, transferring over to an adult endocrinologist for CF. The transition there was no adult doctor because normally they don't live that long. So the child doctor wouldn't take her anymore. So for a whole year and a half, I did it all my own with the pump and couldn't get anyone to help. And so I think this is where maybe a lot of the problems came in, because there was not the correct care. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew how to try to control the blood sugars. And so I ended up taking the pump out myself, because it would just give her insulin in the middle of the night, and thank God her dog would wake her up, or try to wake her up, and I would hear it, and I'd go and take her blood sugar and it'd be down in the 30s. So we had no help, and that was pretty scary.
All right, so the next question is actually from a CF mom saying, any advice giving for a CF mom who's scared that her child is not wanting to take care of herself?
Yeah, go ahead and start letting her try to take care of herself at a younger age, and tell her the consequences, and that CF doesn't just affect her, it affects the whole family. She doesn't take care of herself, doesn't just hurt her, it hurts the mom, the sister, it hurts everybody. sometimes you have to just tell the doctor, and I think the social worker will come in, and there's even classes that the kids can go to get help with this. And there's a lot of forum boards and stuff for kids with CF2 that can talk to other kids that have it, and so they can relate to know that they're not alone.
Yeah, and I'll add on to what she said is even if she just doesn't take in the advice and start getting sick, maybe not necessarily letting it go on until she's in the hospital, but kind of reassure her that this is what's going to happen, and maybe she'll come to realize that she wants to go out with her friends, she wants to go and have a job and stuff like that, but she can't do it because of this cause that's making her ill. All right, so the last question today we have is, does Dara's condition make it hard for you to enjoy your personal life because you're always worrying about her health?
Definitely. I know this is hard because she's sitting here, but it does make it very hard because you're constantly worrying about her, constantly worrying about if she's taking care of herself. I've lost relationships because I've had to put her first. Not had to. I mean, she's my child. I just got married about 7 months ago, and we decided to take off and go travel, and and her being in and out of the hospital 3 times while I was gone as a mom just devastated me. My heart hurt. I was constantly on edge, constantly, of course, as a mom, your stomach hurts all the time. You don't know what to do. And, we had to come back to Texas now, because her health is not all that great right now. So, of course, praying, and I'm sure that she'll do what she's supposed to do. And as she's fixing to be 24 in a couple weeks. And they told us, and they told us that she wouldn't live to be 20. So, as another thing, when you were, growing up, every time her birthday would come, I would go to my room and cry because it was that much closer to, the life expectancy. And I had to learn to turn that around, give it to God and say, it's just a blessing that I have her another year. So that was a really hard one. And, it makes it hard for me to I wouldn't say enjoy life, or just, it'll never be normal. I'm always worried, is she taking care of herself? Is she doing her treatments? And I know every time I talk to her, how are you feeling? You doing your treatments? You doing cardio? Hey, go do some cardio. That'll help. She doesn't do cardio.
I swim every now and then.
Oh, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, I'm constantly worried. She has a sister. We have a younger sister, Danielle, and it would be good to hear her side on this too, because I'm sure she feels like she has a lot of responsibility too. And like I said, the CF, it doesn't just affect how she feels. It affects the whole family.
All right, that's all the question we have today. Thank you for stopping listening. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. The more likes, the more it spreads the awareness of CF. Thank you, Mom, for being a co-host. We'd love to always have you on our channel giving your side of the story. And stay tuned for my next video when I start talking about my depression and anxiety.
And if you moms have any other questions, feel free to text Dara, and she'll send you my email or text. And maybe in the next week or so, we'll answer a lot of questions on insurance. I can help you guys on insurance stuff because I've been through it all. We've had times where, if you make too much money, you don't get this insurance, and they don't get their medications. And when you try to get their medications and the insurance doesn't cover it and they're way too expensive, I have found that they just won't give them to you. So I know all the corners and everything. So it took us a while to get Dara on SSI. We have several different other insurances that we applied for and have, that we will always have. So any insurance questions, there's always a way to get your medication. So just email Dara the questions, and I'll be happy to answer them.
All right, and that's all for today. Thank you, and stay tuned for the next video. Bye.